Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world. It is once again time for the WADcast, episode number 74. This is the Writers, Actors, Directors podcast where we talk about all things with those things and everything included in production in between. I am one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by the guy that didn't oversleep, even though I did. Brandon, what's up, man?
What is up? Happy Friday to all of you who are off on the weekend. I hate all of you very much.
Woohoo!
Yeah, you're included. But no, happy Friday, everybody. It's been a very, very productive week, mostly. So, yeah, how's everything been going with you, Josh?
You know what? I made some moves as far as, business goes. So there's that. I don't really know how to go about saying it, but Wadco Media LLC is now a thing. We are a business. We are awesome.
Well, I mean, we're a business. We haven't gotten to the awesome part yet. We just kind of like exist.
We have to speak it into existence. At least that's what I keep getting told.
Yeah, in case I can't make it in Hollywood, I can make it back home in Jacksonville. So,
Yeah, you already did.
But anyway, no, everyone, we actually have our very first special guest of 2022. Matt Mitchell. He is on the show with us right now. Matt, how are you, sir?
I am doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. Excited, stoked, ready for 2022 and ready to go.
I mean, it's always good to have you on. I mean, we always love having special guests on because I mean, this is a show where people can go to hang out and be ready to screw up because Josh and I do more than enough of that every single week. So,
Okay.
pretty much what we do is we just grill you. We ask you some questions. We stray from the topic. We cover some other ground that's completely unrelated to what we're talking about for about 5-10 minutes. And before you know it, it's time to kick you up. And then Josh goes to bed or plays video games and I go to work. So, but no. So, yeah.
I look forward to my first screw up. Let's see how we can screw it up now. What do we got?
Give it time; it'll happen. But yeah. So, initially, like our past guests, for everyone that has listened to the episodes of our shows or have tuned in to listen to episodes where he has special guests. Matt is actually someone that I've worked with a few times, but he works very closely with a previous guest of ours, a mutual friend of ours, Brian Wallace.
Ryan, shout out.
You've done a lot of stuff with him over the years. You guys actually go back quite a ways. I believe, if I remember right, you guys actually go back to New York days or something like that, right?
Sort of. I mean, we do go back to our theater days, like 20 years ago. Quite a long time. We were actually in drama school together. We did a program in Connecticut, and we actually during that time we did spend 4 days together during our break in New York, which is fun, exciting thing. Because we all got to go see Broadway shows and see that stuff. But about 4 or 5 years ago, Brian moved to LA, which is where I'm based now, and we got back together and we started chatting, and then one thing led to another, and we just started talking about we wanted to start making our own stuff, and we started saying let's put our heads together and see what we can shoot. And since then, we've done a steady stream of short films.
Oh yeah, I mean, you guys have produced, directed, or acted in things like what was it? Stay Green, The Briefcase. Recently, more recently, this past year, it was Play On.
Right, Play On.
And I remember when we were shooting like the trailer for mine and Josh's project that we had Brian be the lead and eventual producer. And he actually highly recommended you come in to do the cinematography for it. And so, like, so you're kind of like a jack of all, of a couple trades there, where you work in acting, you've worked in producing, you've directed, and you've also used we're also working as a cinematographer on a few projects. So
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have your fingers in everything there, bub.
Try. I think this day and age, I mean, especially the day we live in, I mean, you couldn't really do a lot of this stuff, 20, 25 years ago. You were an actor, that's pretty much it. But these days today, I mean, you have to be able to produce your own stuff. You have to be able to dabble into everything, whether it be cinematography, whether it be sound, whether it be lighting and stuff like that. So as we've gone on, we've each had our own little specialties. Mine, obviously, I'm very into cameras. Kind of got into cameras by accident, quite really, and one thing led to another. When I was doing photography, I used to do a lot of wedding photography and other events, and then I started actually getting into video, and I found it was just like a natural fit.
Okay.
And with that, I mean, that combined, I've gotten very technical on that side of the camera, as far as knowing what to shoot with, how we're shooting, and with our short films, the goal is always to make something better than the last one we made, and focusing on something that we can improve, whether it be our lighting, whether it can be our storytelling, how we drive the story, how we're editing the story, and just with each movement being able to say we did something better than last. And I think so far, Brian and I have been very, very accomplished in what we've done so far in that mode.
Oh yeah, I mean, you guys have made a splash with yourselves for a with a few projects that you guys have done. I remember being introduced to Brian through another acquaintance of ours, Mark Hensley. Now, there was this film that you guys did that both you and Brian acted in. That I believe Brian directed, if I remember right, The Briefcase.
Yeah, that was our first one. That was our very, very first one. So we actually co-directed that, and that was again when Brian and I got together. I said, Brian, I've got this idea. Why don't we try to do this hitman kind of thing where the hitmen are kind of idiots, and we have a boss who kind of runs things, and he's kind of an overbearing guy. And I said, Brian, what do you think? You want to go write it? And he went off for a little bit, and I said, Brian, bring back 5 pages. And the way Brian works, he comes back with 15 pages because he's that kind of guy. And we secured a location, which was actually at a brewery, which is very, very cool. It's a great location. And then we just came in. I had my wife actually shoot it as the cinematographer. We got a couple of actors off of Actors Access to work with us. And yeah, I mean, it was our very first thing. We shot everything. I don't know how technical you guys like to get on the camera side. We shot it with a 5D Mark IV on 1080p. And it was the first thing we did. And it showed us that we were able to do this. We could make movies. I mean, it looked pretty good. And we were able to get into a few festivals, and it had a pretty good run. And that, of course, opened the door to other things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, we have a few comments here. Sorry. From Danielle, my beautiful girlfriend. Turn your cameras on. Like, first off, you're not the boss of me. Second, Sue, yeah. Hi, guys. Turn your cameras on. Danielle, cameras on.
Well, I'm sure Brandon's handsomeness would distract from everybody else on. So
exactly. I can't. And you know what? You say that, and Danielle's over there rolling her eyes. She's like, "There's nothing handsome about me because I'm not Tom Hiddleston." So, yeah. That's my competition. So,
but you're Loki at heart.
What's that?
You're Loki at heart.
Oh. I'm more like Thor at heart, but like not like the really serious Thor from the first 2 films. More like Thor Ragnarok, where he's kind of like a bumbling idiot. That's pretty much who I am at heart. So no, but going back to the so you and Brian made that, and that led to other projects that you guys have worked on. And I will say the way that you guys write your projects is admirable, because it seems like you guys, know what your budget is. Which, if you're living in LA, you're not a famous person, your budget is whatever change you can scrape out of your pockets or your car seat or whatever.
Exactly. And that's what we've done. So everything we've shot, we've kind of tried to find something that was in one location. We've tried to find locations that had plenty of lighting, so we didn't have to rent any kind of equipment. We were very lucky in that, again, I had my camera, and I had some lighting equipment. Another friend of ours had some sound equipment, so we were using Sennheisers, which was very, very nice. And he had the boom, and he also had the wireless mics, and then everything just kind of came together. Beyond that, I mean, yeah, we're pretty much a dollar store production as far as what we can get with props.
Well, I mean, would you say it's a fair assessment that people who are more focused on making some of this bigger budget versus making just a good story are at a disadvantage when it comes to actually making something worth watching?
I think, when it comes down to it, story is everything, of course. It doesn't matter if you've got a budget of 100 million or you got a budget of, $5. I've seen plenty of stuff on YouTube that I thought was great because of the story was invigorating. And then I've seen, obviously, we've all seen some of these movies that have major stars in them that are just a complete 2-hour bore.
Yeah.
Because they have so much. The thing is that sometimes you could say more money, more problems, as was it Easy used to say.
Yeah, like
obviously, we all want money. We all want that angel investor who can come in and throw some stuff at us. Because I admit that more money can dramatically increase your production value, but there's something kind of romantic about when you don't have money and you have to find certain ways to do things.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh, I'm hijacking the show. Would you like to jump in?
Oh, sure. As far as the prospect that money can cause more issues, I think we've seen that a lot, especially over the last few years. When, let's take The Matrix just as a franchise, for example.
Oh, God.
You're right.
The first movie was, sure, it had some money behind it, but a lot of it was
Experimental.
Very experimental, it out of necessity. And we got some really intriguing stuff there, especially when it comes to the shooting. But it seems like once the budget was boosted, suddenly we're relying on computers to do everything.
Oh yeah, I was actually just watching Matrix Reloaded today, and that song "Rubber Band Man" from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I could think of when I'm watching the fight scenes. But
yeah, I think that first one was great. The second and third one, I think you guys are right, man. As far as they had some success and they had lightning in a bottle and they brought it back, and those are terrible. But you even look at that first one, the famous scenes where they're all jumping and then the camera moves around. And then when you see how they did it, it's actually pretty simple. They just had a whole bunch of cameras that were able to capture each one, and then they fix it in post. And obviously now everybody kind of does that same move. But you think when you look at that, that's rather simple. And again, they had a big budget. But putting all those cameras together and the editing probably wasn't that big of a budget breaker, that particular part of it. Where in the second and third one, they've got all these immaculate sets, they've got this and that. It's just, the stories are just.
It just became very, very CGI centric. And with the machine world, I get. Like the real world where the machines take over, I understand why it would have to be like CGI centric for like a lot of the battle scenes with the Nebuchadnezzar and the invading of whatever the name of the city was. But when it comes to like inside the Matrix, where they're like Neo's fighting, like that scene where he's fighting the 200 plus Agent Smiths in that I guess that like courtyard area. It was just so bad. It's like I'm going back. I was watching that today. I'm like, wow, this is. It's still worth watching that before I'd ever watch Matrix 4 again. But it was, just a little rough. But again, we're talking about like the budgeting and everything else, and what have you. But Josh, what else you got?
Just to throw this out there, another very prime example of innovation when it comes to lack of money. The Evil Dead.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sam Raimi did amazing things.
Yeah.
On which movie? Sorry.
The Evil Dead.
The Evil Dead. All right on.
And then he had to go back and I believe he had to remake the Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is really just a remake because he had to get the rights back for it. But he had to do certain things because he didn't have everything in order. If I remember, there was something legal about it, which is why it pretty much just got rebooted and slightly retold for Evil Dead 2. But same thing, though. He had like no budget. But
Right. I was thinking locally here, there was a TV show that I forget the network, like Ion or something like that, where it was a guy who did hiking, and he would just take the camera out and he'd go to all these immaculate locations like Yosemite and everywhere else. And it was just him and the camera. It was very charming on some of the camera. And he just described things he was doing. And then I guess he had a bit of an audience because he did this for 2 seasons. And then the 3rd season, all of a sudden he's got a crew of 5 people around. They got a drone flying around. They've got all this stuff going on. And it lost its charm. for me anyway, it lost its charm because it was just one guy in nature. And now it turned into this big production thing because I guess it got its audience and it started getting some money. And I think it didn't last very long after that. Maybe another season or two, and then it was gone.
Yeah. See, but I mean that's the thing. Like it's going back to like the budgeting and everything else. People seem to think that you need to have this high dollar amount to film something that's really worth watching. The things that you and Brian have put out with fancy movies, you have so much stuff that's like you have these stories that are actually really hysterical and charming. I know that you and I had a conversation a while back, and you said that you don't necessarily think of yourself as like an actor, like, and you like like to be like behind the camera kind of deal, right?
Well, I think at this point, I mean, I started out as an actor. I was an actor for a very, very long time, and I mean, the actor road is it's a very tough road. It can be very, very tough, and I always tell people that you have to have other interests besides your acting. My 20s, I spent a lot of time just focusing on trying to get a job, but for here, get a job there, get a job there, and you don't focus a lot on the outside. Like I think you got to find a good day job while you're working on that stuff, and then when you are fully working as an actor, then by all means you can quit your day job and all that. But I think for me, I was so focused on being an actor, I missed out on a lot of stuff. And when I got into photography, that really changed my life a lot because I started walking around. I had a little point and shoot Sony camera that was 3 megapixels. When you think back like the 2002, 2003, 3 megapixels is nothing these days. Some of these cameras, have 50 megapixels just walking around. And here I am, a grown man at that age still, and I'm taking pictures of flowers because I'm noticing all the fine little details, and it's kind of emasculating in that way, I guess, when I think about it. But that was a big breaking point for me as far as I saw that, and then I upgraded the camera, and I upgraded the camera, and I upgraded the camera, and it just opened up a whole new world for me personally. I kind of rambled here. What was the initial question?
No, I was talking about like
what I think of myself as. So
yeah.
So again, I got into that. I got focused on that, but I still continued the acting. So at this point, I like doing everything. I like the creative part. In fact, when I got into producing, one of the biggest things, and this is why I always recommend people, they need to produce their own stuff. One, you couldn't do this 20 years ago. I mean, in the 70s, if you went to film school, it probably cost you $100,000. Then you had to produce your own film, which probably cost you another $100,000 to make something. And then who knows if you're going to make it or not. And then all of a sudden you're out all that money, and there's no guarantee you're ever going to work.
Oh yeah.
But when you start producing your own stuff and you realize what it takes to make things, and then when to be honest with you, I found that I've appreciated over the last number of years producing and being an actor in those things, or just producing, because you have that creative control, is so much better than some of the stuff. Like I took a lot of jobs as an actor that I had no desire to take because I had to do it for the money, or I had to do it because I just had to work, or I needed this, that, or other things. But when you get into producing, then you can do your own stuff. Like now, the biggest people that influenced me, I would say, at least their careers. I mean, I look at Quentin Tarantino, and I look at all these guys who make Martin Scorsese, who make their own things, and that's the life you want, to be able to make your own stuff and have creative control and input into that. And then when you have your collaborators, you collaborate with them, and you're making your nice piece of art or your nice piece of film that you want to make. Where before, as an actor, you're kind of a hired gun, and you don't really have that say.
Yeah.
At least that's where I'm at now. So I mean, I appreciate all aspects of it. I mean, I'll do anything at this point. If it's something I believe in, I mean, if they want me to be, a PA, go get coffee. If it's something I want to be a part of, I mean, absolutely, I'm in there. Of course, I would say we all wear multiple hats these days.
Yeah, the thing is, and we have a few comments I haven't really caught up on. So Sue said that Sue is in the chat. She said, I started my second career with photography.
Nice.
Which that's Sue and I have actually had a conversation about that stuff before. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's if you are good at it, then someone will pay. And then you have Brian, who nothing unmanly about liking flowers.
Well, Brian's the manly man of the man. Brian used to make fun of. I just throw a side note on Brian because I have we would make the movies, and then we would kind of design these posters for them. at one point I was so into photography and I was doing a lot of photoshops and things like that. I just started making movie posters with me and my friends. And then Brian came in. He's like, "What's this?" And I go, "Oh, it's just, it's not real. It's just a movie that I made up." And he goes, "Oh, that's the first I've ever heard of that. You're making the poster before you make the idea." I said, "Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it."
If it means anything, I've done the same thing.
Right? Who knows where you're gonna get inspiration from?
Well, yeah, I mean, I never actually made like a Photoshop looking poster. I used to just kind of draw them. But I think I actually made one for Bad Agent, and I sent it to Brian. I actually, when we were scouting out that the warehouse that we, I'm sorry, the studio rather that we shot it that one day the trailer shoot in what was it, Van Nuys, I think, right?
Yeah.
I had Brian was looking out this big garage door, and I told him to stay still for a second. I stepped back, I took a quick picture with my phone. And it's like this hero pose for like the protagonist in Bad Agent. And I turned it into like the dumbest looking poster. I got like, just it looks so bad. In my defense though, I didn't use Photoshop. I used like a meme making app on my phone. So it was
technology.
But yeah. Yep. It took me an hour to do it, but I was proud of myself. But like, if it means anything, I would make fun of you too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hey, you make fun of me as all you want. As long as you're funny, that's all that matters.
Well, I hope so. My last name is Junk, so. So I mean, like, so what do you think that? What are your like? I guess eventual goals. I mean, no one wants to work in the film industry and fail. So, like, what are your like goals and like where do you want to like eventually end up doing in the industry?
Well, I mean, ideally, right now, like I say, I've got a heavy hand in this, and I just want to continue producing stuff that we can make and see where we can go with this. Ideally, obviously, we all want to reach out and make a show that gets on a Netflix or gets on Amazon and see where that goes. I mean, that'd be the ultimate prime that we could get and try to get a hit on our hands, This day and age, there's just so much content. I mean, I've tried other venues of YouTube, and it's just, you can make a lot of stuff, but I guess trying to get stuff that's seen and get out there that kind of picks up its own energy, that's the main goal right now. I mean, we've got stuff in a number of festivals. We've done that route, and it's been highly enjoyable. It's been highly enjoyable to speak at festivals. It's been great to get to know some of these other people that are out there that are just as hungry as we are. But I think the next step, I mean, I would like to grow and get something on a major network, a major platform. That'd be ideal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Josh,
what do you guys see, like with your podcast, for example? I mean, where do you see this going? I mean, is this something you want to get picked up like a Joe Rogan style, or is this something?
Well, I mean, Joe Rogan style with less, I guess, conspiracy related things on it. And I will say Joe Rogan is 1,000 times better than Alex Jones. I can never stand Alex Jones.
He's awesome.
And Joe Rogan is hysterical. He is funny. And I like the fact that with this, I think Josh and I, Josh, who has his mic muted right now out of politeness, but you are welcome to join on this show. It is yours too, buddy.
Maybe we could turn on the Matrix. Matrix Revolutions. Check out that scene you're talking about.
But Josh and I had talked in depth. We have a few projects that we are actually working on. WADco Media is now an LLC, and the WADcast is officially a property underneath of WADco Media. So that being the case, we are looking into some projects that Josh can take the helm of out of Jacksonville that I'll help develop from Los Angeles. I'm actually looking into doing some animation related stuff with an old property of mine and another old property that Josh and I actually first were introduced through that I have now copyrighted under WADco Media with our names attached to it. So there's things that we are planning on doing. And then if I'm not mistaken, when we spoke about this, we were trying to get the WADcast and WADco Media to be something more like, I guess, on the level of like Watch Mojo, What Culture, things like that, instead of just doing top 10 lists, which is what they're famous for, discussing everything. And as of late, we're actually dipping into more things like even in like private conversations, talking about covering things like Broadway shows, because that still comes with writers, actors, directing. It's not just the film industry. There's the whole entertainment industry to really think of.
Right. Well, you think of Broadway. I mean, obviously it's hit hard by COVID, but Broadway would be interesting. I mean, that definitely that theater crowd.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I used to be so in touch more with Broadway when I was a younger actor. I mean, I thought I was going to move to either New York or LA, and I used to know everything that was on Broadway. These days, though, it's much tougher just because we're not there. But it'd be interesting to talk about and hear what's happening with Broadway.
Oh yeah. No, like we're trying to put in a few different things, but primarily what we're trying to do is always, of course, having like guests of ours such as yourself, Brian, Sue. I think of actually initially I had brought it up to you and Brian about having both of you on the show, and there's one where you guys had just done like a podcast together, and like Brian urged me to just like say, okay, well, let's just like have Matt do this, and I'm like, okay, that's great. That's actually one at a time, and then I'll have both of you on hopefully soon. But we're also trying to get into dealing with more, like, I guess the A-list crowd of not just actors, but producers, stuff like that. But
Brian didn't want me to steal his thunder. Okay.
Oh, Brian.
Hey, Brandon, is there something you wanna say to Brian since you have his attention right now?
Who, me or Brian?
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Was I supposed to say something to Brian directly?
Oh, I
appreciate you, sir.
Maybe
I enjoy you.
Watch Relish.
You're a very trusted confidant, and you're a very talented writer, director, and actor. I actually look forward to. Well, what am I supposed to say?
Oh, just you know what? You'll remember. I'm not going to.
That's like me being a kid walking into my great grandma's house, and like one of my parents saying, "Now go give Gam a kiss on the lips." Like,
Do it.
Like, I mean, you have to prep me for something. Like, what am I supposed to say? But I've never been good at like on the spot stuff.
Well, I heard kiss somebody on the lips, but please don't kiss Brian on the lips.
Oh no, I'm not going to kiss Brian on the lips. Like, I mean, it's not that you're not attractive.
Brian on the lips,
and it's not that he's not an attractive man. It's just, but Josh, what am I supposed to say? Like, I mean,
no, if I have to tell you, it probably wasn't supposed to be said, so that's fine.
Well, I mean, it's like you could always put in the private chat so I can see it. We have a private chat here. You have my number that you can text me on. Okay.
So that's what you're paying attention to, other than the show.
Oh yes, no. You're right. Okay, you're right. Okay, so that's what I was supposed to say, Brian. I already spoke to you on the phone. I've already done this, but for the sake of it being the WADcast and our listeners around the world, happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Brian.
I'm sorry you're currently dealing with what you're dealing with, but the very happiest of birthdays, buddy. And I really hope that you are better as soon as possible, man. So, not to put your private information out there, I really feel bad about talking about.
That's why I was vague and put all of the onus on you.
Yep. HIPAA violation. Sorry, Brian.
You know what kind of car he drives and his license plate number?
I'll have that graphic up in just a moment.
Oh, God. Oh, man. No, seriously, though, Brian, happy birthday, man. I hope you're having as good of a birthday week as possible. So,
By the way, so I know Brian's from Florida. You guys are from Florida, Jacksonville. All you guys are from Jacksonville, right?
Yeah, actually, Brian is, and that's one of my great conversations I had with Brian when I first met him. We found out that we were both actually very familiar with Jacksonville. So, but
yeah, I'm actually from Miami myself. So I mean, I grew up in Miami and I lived in Orlando for a few years too.
I've bypassed Miami twice. Never actually went in.
Do you guys ever do any work at Full Sail? Or I know Full Sail is at school, the film school.
I never have. No. I went high end. I went to the Art Institute of California, Los Angeles, and I made some great friends, some great connections. But Full Sail was not really a big thing that I knew about back then. Otherwise, I would have done that. But because you actually have some people that went to Full Sail that are very successful in the industry. There is a gentleman, I forget his name. He made this zombie film called Automaton Transfusion. If you're a huge horror fan, I recommend you watch it. If you're a big horror zombie fan, I recommend you watch it. If you have a problem with a zombie punching into a pregnant woman's belly and pulling out a fetus and taking a bite out of it, I recommend you don't watch it. It is a really, really rough film to watch, but this led to this guy having other successful independent horror films, and I think he actually recently took the helm of an A-list production out here in Hollywood. So, yeah, and he too is from Jacksonville, Florida. So,
I did a bunch of stuff at Full Sail back in the day as an actor. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a great place to cut your teeth on making movies. Of course, they were all students as well. But I mean, they had all the top of the line equipment. It was good times. Good times.
See, it's like that's the one thing I admire about people that act, because you have that passion for acting. And like Matt, watching you actually deliver on, because I was COVID compliance officer for yours and Brian's film Play On.
Yeah, right.
And I unfortunately couldn't stay the entire day, but also at some point you didn't really need me anymore. So it's just like it was hysterical watching you play this character. And I admire people that actually do act and had that excitement and passion for acting. I don't have that. I was kind of like I was the friend's hired actor in college because I'm good at acting, but I'm so uncomfortable in front of the camera. Like, I don't like being in front of the camera and acting at all. Like, I just want my name, Brandon Junk, to be someone that you just talk smack about my name and not know what my face looks like. I'm good with that.
Where do you want your name? Do you want to be the director or do you want to be the writer more? What affects you more?
Well, I mean, I like directing. I do enjoy directing. But my goal was back in college was just to write. And that way, if someone hated me, they can just hate my name, which I'm used to that. It's Brandon D. Junk. Hate it all you want. I didn't name me, my parents did. But as I started directing things, I started falling in love with directing. But I actually have some clips of my acting days, and I will never share them. But it's like watching you act and watching watching you act and also watching you work behind the camera when you were helping me shoot my project.
Right.
And it's like what I do like is I like your and I know this. I know that Brian is not a special guest on the show, but we've talked about him a lot. But you guys work so closely together on so many things.
Right. But even the stuff like the stuff that we work together on, you and I, Brandon. I mean, I enjoy that process because I mean, you go in and it's just a great feeling when you go in and you have the scene, you've got it written down, and then we talk about it beforehand. We block the actors. We talk about where we're going to put the camera and every single angle, and that's the art part of it that I really enjoy. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, it's like no. When I was directing the set, like how you would like lean in and just pull me in, like ask me how everything looked. Like that's what impresses me with both you and also with Brian, because I've seen both of you do the same things. Like with Play On, like your wife was helming the second camera, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And Brian was directing and operating the main camera. Yeah, the first camera. And it's like I really enjoy watching the level of skill that you guys both have because of the attention to detail and everything, and how it's just like it's so just laid back. Like we had to get these shots done. We have a time frame, but it's like you guys were even trying to figure out how to how to work around the lighting, because I think Play On, we were there for quite a few hours that day filming that, and as the sun was making the shadows stretch across the living room and all that stuff in your apartment.
Well, I go back to, I mean, that's where we talk about how many people do you actually need to make something. I mean, these days you can make something with your phone and one person. You don't need all this other stuff. That day would Play On, I mean, it was literally the four of us, and I was the actor in it. So I mean, it's just, if you can find a good place to shoot, you got your lighting, you have a good story, you can shoot something. And these days the cameras look so good. I mean, we couldn't do this years ago. There's
no
reason not to create these days. There's no reason. If you're not doing it, it's just because you need to get over your laziness or get over these other things of procrastinating, which ironically is what Play On is about. It's procrastination because you're constantly thinking about what you want to do with something and never actually doing it, which is what. And Brian wrote the story, and I thought that was my big thing with it. I thought it was just a very clever idea because it's so universal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and if for those of you that have not seen this movie, Play On. Do you want to tell them what Play On is about?
So Play On is about a guy who loves his guitar, and he's never actually played it, but he's got all these songs that he's written in his head. And one of these days, he's going to actually start playing. Soon.
Start learning how to play.
Yeah, start learning how to play. But he's already got he's got 40 albums already written down, which is a line in the movie, which is way more than a very famous other artist. Yeah.
No, if you guys, we can definitely probably post a link. We can't with yours and Brian's permission. We can definitely post a link to it on the WADcast website, on the Facebook page, and also on the Instagram and I guess a link on Twitter. There we go. Josh handles our Twitter account. So
that was also Play On was also a part of our mockumentaries. We did another mockumentary before that called Stay Green. And that was about a guy who does his best to recycle, and it's a part of a mundane documentary series. So we're going to try to do at least one more. I know Brian has ideas for others, but that was a one-person movie. Play On was a one-person movie, which again I starred in, and then the next one's got to be Brian, of course, to star in the next mundane documentary. And then ideally, when we talk about these, you think of a series. So ideally, what we would do with these, if we did 3 or more, we would then try to package them as an episodic deal somewhere. That'd be the goal.
I think that'd be great. But so where do you see yourself going next? I know we've discussed in a couple of years and everything else. What are you trying to get into next?
Well, next we just formed our own LLC, which is a new thing we're all learning about. I know California rules are a lot different than the Florida rules, so I don't know how you're handling it, Josh, as far as money-wise and everything else. But we've got a couple ideas that we're throwing around, and Brandon, I know you're a part of that as well.
I am.
So we're going to pitch some ideas, and we're going to pitch some ideas, and then we're going to start shooting soon. I'm hoping ASAP.
Partnering in a couple of companies, I might as well start the Junk LLC here, or the Junk Corporation.
Be the man of the plan, out with everything, right?
The next Brandon Junkrest. It's like Ryan Seacrest for Brandon Junkrest, right? Yep. No.
Oh, man.
Moving on. Josh, what do you got, man?
You're asking me what I have?
Yeah, what are you contributing? You put me on the spot with Brian. Yeah, I had no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So
I'm just here to stir the pot, man.
What would you like to bring up?
Well, I've also done a teeny weeny bit of acting in my day. Watch Disunity, and I understand a little bit of what it's like to have the pressure of the camera on you, especially. Okay, since somebody brought it up, Disunity, or more specifically Henry R. Nader's Disunity, which you can watch on Vimeo. That was also a single player deal. There was one other scene, very brief, that had a second character in it. Unless you want to count, no spoilers. But it was honestly a lot of pressure to carry a performance for an entire even short film by myself, because whether it's good or whether it's bad, I'm there going, geez, I have no one to blame but me if this is just awful. And that can be a lot. And then on top of that, Henry was shooting on, actual film,
Oh,
didn't do any digital. And
is that recent or is that a while ago?
that was last year.
That was shooting on film still. Good for him.
Yeah, and he sends it into the developer, waits for the stuff to come back for him to edit, and I kept thinking to myself, "Geez, there's no second chances here. I really actually have to do something pretty okay." Now, when you were doing the things you're doing as far as performing, did you ever feel like that pressure? Well, the performance side is all on me. I better not crack.
I think when I think of our earlier stuff, it was definitely when you try to produce something and you act in it at the same time, and you've got a bunch of other actors and you're trying to control certain things, your performance is affected. I mean, I would say, because you'd be, for example, in the briefcase, we'd be in the middle of a take, and I'd say, "Oh, it's cut. We got a plane going, overhead or something going on." So you are all constantly thinking about other things. But play on, I really try to trust everything else going on around me, so I could just focus on Brian's words, trying to get them all correct and in the right place in the right time. That can be challenging. But I do think about when I used to do in the old days, I used to do a lot of productions and we'd shoot film, and there's a lot more pressure back then when I think about it, because you'd literally be at the end of the day and the director would come to you and say, "Okay, we've got 30 feet of film left. That's enough for one take. Don't screw it up. All right, everybody, places action," and then action. And there's a lot of pressure, So I always sympathize with those film guys, man. I sympathize. It's just technology has changed so much, because obviously you can, with digital, you can delete a bad take and you can just do it again. But film is a whole different beast, a whole different animal.
No, yeah.
You almost have to really know more of what you're doing when you're shooting film more than anything else. Same thing with photography as well.
I think what we should do at some point, maybe as a special edition, maybe as just a regular episode of the WADcast, we should have a round table of all of our shooters to just geek out about cameras.
I definitely
think that could be fun.
Cameras. Yeah. There's so many different kinds of cameras, so many different outputs, and so many different, from your Canons to your Nikons to your Sonys. The industry's changed there too. Canon used to deliver everything. Now Sony is just so top notch with a lot of stuff going on. Some of those high end cameras. And even Canon just actually introduced a new camera, the R5C, which has a fan on it. They don't want to cannibalize their cinema line, but it's crazy. That's probably a lot of nerd talk. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. I see a comment. She worships her Canon. I love it.
The thing is, for those of you listening and you don't realize, and you're not familiar with, if you work with digital media, there is, for those of you listening and working with digital media, there is a lot more freedom, because there is no real time outside of how much space you have on whatever external storage you're putting this on, with your SD cards or whatever. There's really not a whole lot. Also, the battery power of the camera, obviously, but with film, film, it does not last long. So what you're saying, as you put it, there's 30 feet of film left, guys. That will last you no time whatsoever. It's gone before you know it.
Yeah,
it's there's a reason why film is so expensive, because I think, isn't it, if I remember right, I believe oh god, we're going back to film school here. I think 1,000 feet would last maybe 10 to 15 minutes for sound. For sound film, and I think what was it? I think about 15 to 20 minutes for actual just regular to film something a silent kind of film. So it's it doesn't last long at all. So it's like I respect anyone. Like Josh, you mentioned like that was Henry, right? With the film.
Yes, that was actually the. Let's see, it was a short film that we shot last year, but also The Exchange, another a film by Henry Arnader, feature length that was also shot with film.
Why did he choose to do film? If I may ask him, I'm always curious. Did he just like the look of film, the color that he's going to get with this particular
Yeah,
film?
it had a lot to do with that, and he's a massive fan of the older style of doing things.
Oh.
I don't want to say like a purist style because what's pure in Hollywood, right?
Right.
But he definitely enjoys the grain, the color,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I'm just gonna say I think he enjoys the pressure.
oh, that's a good response.
I would never enjoy that pressure. I'd be panicking.
Right. Well, I always think of when you look at a film from the '70s or you look at a film from the '80s. I mean, it can be very beautiful if you're shooting on 8mm, 35mm, but it's a distinct style. So sometimes I wonder if somebody's gonna like I don't know what your friend shot on, but I mean, if he's shooting 8mm, there's a distinct style. Does it look like it's gonna be from the '70s? That feel. But along those lines, though, I mean, that's why, like today, some of those cameras look like they're video, and like you're shooting on videotape is kind of weird. But the software is so good now with Final Cut Pro and Premiere. I mean, you really do a lot of work as far as coloring your film to get it the exact colors you kind of want. But yeah, I don't know. Even at this point, film is still it's a whole other difficult beast. That's completely different than shooting on digital.
Yeah, actually, we have some comments here from Sue. I worship my Canon, and I started out in film. I hated it. You know what? I actually worship my Canon too. I've been getting to know camera work as of late, Matt. I've actually gotten some practice in with some camera work and whatever downtime I might have, which is not much. Um, but yeah, started out in film. I hated it. Like I honestly, I don't think I should ever be around a film reel. I would just do something that would screw it. I'd be like Goofy from Disney. I'd get wrapped up in it somehow.
Well, I think about even like with the film, you were saying you shoot the film and then now you got to take it off to a lab to have it done. Where now when we shoot stuff, we're literally editing that night because we're so excited to see what footage we got, and then we can just piece it together and we can get a rough cut by the next day. I'm sure shooting with film, I mean, that could take 2 or 3 weeks, right, before you actually get what you want. And I don't even know how you would cut film together these days. I guess they put it already processed.
To my understanding, like I believe they just scan it through like they splice the reels together or whatever. They they put it in a reel at a time. They digitize it and they ship it back to you. But I mean, like, well, yeah, and like what you said, I like the idea of being able to edit what I shot that day. I mean, Christ, Kevin Smith just finished shooting Clerks 3. He is already editing it at his house. I think he already has like a rough edit where it's like 2.5 hours long.
Jeez.
So it's like we've had other guests on the show, one of which I was able to watch like a sample of their movie without any of the extras or anything like that. But I think he shoots his stuff and he edits it on film like as soon as he can so we can see what he has. So I'm sorry, he edits it like digitally, edits it like as soon as he's done so we can see what he did for that day. But and Sue, Jesus, that is long. It is Kevin Smith. If it is related to Jay and Silent Bob, for me, it's never too long. Could be worse. It could be Matrix Resurrections or Ghostbusters 2016.
I didn't see that one, but I did see the latest Matrix, and I gotta say, I was not that impressed.
Yeah. I've gotten some flack for my thoughts on it. Yeah.
Did you guys ever do any theater? Is that a curiosity, or just mainly movie making? I know you're talking about bringing, talking more on Broadway stuff.
Are you talking about directing theater or acting in theater?
Both.
I acted a few times back when I was in college out here. at a local theater, just to help out a friend. Again, I was like the go-to hiring actor, kind of whatever. Outside of that,
was that like a black box kind of thing, or was it in a big theater?
oh no, it wasn't anything professional at all. It was like a small little. Thank God, 3 people showed up to the opening night. But before that, the last time I was ever on a stage performing was in high school at the senior talent show, where I did an Andy Kaufman impersonation of his Mighty Mouse stunt that he did on Saturday Night Live, or I'm sorry, on not Saturday Night Live. Well,
Yeah.
no, it was Saturday Night Live. Yeah, he was a musical guest. And then I did my version of Amish Paradise by Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, nice.
I was the only comedic actor. Everyone else was trying to be like professional dancers, like copying like the Pussycat Dolls and Destiny's Child and whatnot. Because and for those of you listening, leave me alone. This is like back in like 1999, 2000. So
I remember my first few years in LA. I mean, that's the way it is. Like a lot of these theaters around here, 99-seat theaters, and you got 10 people on stage and 2 people in the audience for literally 2 or 3 weeks of the run.
Yeah, you're over there acting your little heart out, and people are over there snoring, like they just came in to get out of the cold.
Exactly. I'm gonna use the bathroom.
Yeah, and hope to God they use the bathroom in the restroom. So, but Josh, didn't you say that you've acted like in plays before?
Yeah, I've done. Let's see, 5 stage productions, 2 of them musicals.
Oh, right on. In Jacksonville, they used to have the Alhambra Dinner Theater. Is that still around?
Yeah, it's still a thing.
Yes, it is still around. Yeah.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
It is so odd having guests on the show and actually be familiar with Jacksonville. We are the butts of so many jokes in movies.
I auditioned there a couple times. I mean, I would make the drive up from Orlando. A guy who used to do it, I don't know if he's still around, Todd Booth. He used to own the place. I think.
I think it might be under new ownership. I'm not sure.
But you know what? While we're talking about Jacksonville, I've got to say this. We have had 3 deaths of very prolific people in my life. Louis Anderson today, Meatloaf passed away today, and Terry of Terry's Country Store in Jacksonville. It was announced that he passed away either today or yesterday. It is going to be so sad coming back home and not being able to have a conversation with a dude. He was like the sweetest old man you'd ever meet. But you know what has, huh?
I didn't realize Meatloaf and Louis Anderson had Jacksonville ties. Okay, that's cool.
No. So I just mentioned that for the WADcast. I mentioned Terry because he's Jacksonville. But Meatloaf is very Meatloaf, like in my circle growing up when I would go down to I was raised in New Jersey, but I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. But I would go down most of the summers growing up to spend time with my father and my grandparents and the rest of my litter mates. But basically, Meatloaf was a very big thing with me and my older brother. Like we just rocked out to Meatloaf all the damn time. But one thing that has not changed though is the eyesore of I-4. It is still there. So don't worry when you go back down to Florida. If you make a drive from Orlando to Jacksonville on I-4, you will see that building that has been there for I don't even know how many years now and has not changed at all. It's still vacant and still surrounded by debris. I miss Florida.
Jacksonville. I miss Florida sometimes too. Not enough to go back, but sometimes.
No. I miss the rent, but I hear that's even changing as of late. But Josh, I had no idea you were in musical theater.
You never asked.
Yep. You know what? We've worked together for how many years now? And I knew that you acted before. I knew that you did some stage acting, but I have I don't have a hard time picturing you doing some spins and dance moves and singing. Yeah,
I did those things. I can't say I did them super well.
So there's no like dancing like in Cats or anything like that with you.
No, it's more like standard little
showing off your beautiful tenor.
Yes, always.
Did you have to wear tights?
It's funny because I do have a story. It goes all the way back to high school. So imagine this: the year is 1999. I know that's so weird for some of you to think about 1999, and for some of you, it's like, oh, well, I was very much an adult at that point.
In the at the end of the last century.
Wow.
Yes, and we were partying like it was that. So in high school, we do stuff in drama department. That's sort of what the drama department does, and we were doing a production of Guys and Dolls. I had the role of Nicely Johnson, and for those of you familiar with the production, Nicely's not a small guy. Neither was I. The only thing was, considering the wardrobe that we had on hand, there wasn't a whole lot in the way that could fit. Considering I was, a bigger guy, still am. Although there was a period in between where I wasn't, but that's a story for a different day. Anyway, as we're trying to get our wardrobe put together for what the show is going to be, and we're having a hard time finding something. If it fit, our director / teacher would be like, "No, I don't see that for your character." And it's like, okay, but these are like really comfortable, and this would go on for a little while, and eventually, a friend of mine, whom I'm sure we'll have on the show at some point because he's an actor, brings out these pants, and they're like I don't know, like a lycra stretchy thing. And we both start laughing because they're just this hideous plaid and look absolutely atrocious. I put them on, and dear Lord, it leaves nothing to the imagination. They're so tight. So I'm like, yeah, let's go show her how ridiculous this all is by making these pants an example. So we go to the director / teacher and say, "Hey, check this out." And of course, that's when she says, "Those are perfect." And my jaw drops, not only because, wow, these are incredibly inappropriate for a minor to wear, but also because I realized I would have to wear these in front of, people. But I did the show in those ridiculously tight pants, so tight that I had leg hair poking out. It was, yeah, not exactly tights, but I think it counts.
Luck was a lady that night, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And song on the show.
And here, Josh, I'll send these to you if you want to post these. Sue made a comment here saying, what was it? Juggling walnuts. She says, "I can see Brandon in tights and rocking them in his goofy way." I actually, Matt, you'll actually see this too, because I put this in the group chat that I made for this specific show. I did have an acting gig that lasted an entire summer. Back in 2003. I was working at the Cape May Lewis Ferry, and it's this it's like this, like a little like ferry boat that takes you from Cape May, New Jersey to Lewis, Delaware, like across the New Jersey Bay, the Cape May Bay. My job was as this character, Lighthouse Pete the Pirate. I got my training from it was the same company that made the Philly Fanatic costume, and the guy that trained me was the original Philly Fanatic. So my job was to just act like a jackass, not say a word, which is hard for me. I like to talk, but I just got to mess with people, and I just did anything I could to put on a show. That is me. That is a picture of me in the costume. The second picture is not me, but it's just it's an example of the costume that I had to wear. because I had to wear tights. But for an entire summer, I got to do this. My brother worked at he worked in like fast food and concession. He rode his bike to work every day, and he borrowed my bike lock, my old bike lock. I knew the combination. My brother could not just leave the counter, but he could see what I was doing because he always made sure he could see his bike. I stole his bike while in costume. And then I had this officer, Clayton, a really nice officer that worked with the Delaware Bay Authority, who pretended to arrest me in front of, put on like a little chase scene with him in the car, like, putting on the sirens and like the strobe lights, chasing after me. And I ended up getting arrested in the costume and thrown in the back of this really hot squad car. But yeah, I mean, like that was the precipice of my acting career. And you know what? Yes, Sue, I wore tights. And I was confused for a woman because of my fine legs and thighs that, I have thighs, I don't have an ass. But people thought that I was a woman because of my legs. A tall woman. But I had a great time.
Well, I guess there was nowhere to go but down from there, right? Wearing that costume.
You know what? I kind of identify with Robin Williams in Death to Smoochie.
It's funny. My first paid acting gig was actually as in a theme park, working as Barney the dinosaur.
Oh God!
I was 18, and I thought I had made it. I look back now; it's laughable, of course, but at the time, it was amazing. It was a show. Here I am. I was making okay money for an 18-year-old kid, and I was doing like 5 shows a day as Barney, dancing around, stepping on little kids' hands. It was good stuff.
Is that the Universal show?
It was.
I've been to that show.
Yeah, I loved it though. And even at the time, man, I was so green and so eager to please. I mean, I was a big ball of energy. I mean, I would just run around like crazy, and then I would run off stage and hug the stage attendants and tell them dirty jokes, whisper dirty jokes in their ears during the show. It was a live show. It was like 20 minutes, of doing stuff with the other characters. But it was good stuff back then.
See, at least like what you did was so it was so pure and innocent. Aside from like the dirty jokes, obviously, but putting on the show for the kids, it was more like this innocent fun.
Yeah.
With me, I was paid to just mess with people. I had to be in the costume for 45 minutes and a half hour out because it would get so hot.
That costume.
Yeah. You're going to keep bringing it up, huh? Yeah, that costume
this picture's not going anywhere, buddy.
That costume, it got so damn hot. But there was like this mini golf course, and like this whole like family area that families could go while they're waiting for the next boat to pull in or depart, or after they get off the boat, they just want to sit down and relax for a little bit. There was like an arcade section. There was a like a little mini golf area. This one guy, he had he threatened to punch me, and I was just walking. I was not in costume. He was a dick. He was just like this muscle bound guy. I guess he had to like really show off for his girlfriend. So he threatened to, I got too close to him while I was getting some food during my break. And he threatened to hit me. So I'm like, okay, that's whatever. So you're my target when I get that costume back on. So I go get the costume on, and he's playing miniature golf with his girlfriend. And I go and I hold the flag where the hole is. Like I pull the flag out, like welcoming him to make the shot. He almost had a hole in one. If he had made a hole in one, he would have won $50 from the. That was like, it's like their thing. If you get your very first hole in one at the time, he would have gotten like a $50 gift card. He almost got it. Right before I got to the hole, I bent down, picked it up, I chucked it into the water by the jetty where the boats are coming in. This guy was seething. And it's like, I go over and I shake his hand and everything else. And I hand him another golf ball and tell him to make another shot. Like, I mean, not tell him, but like motion him to make another shot, and I walk away. Mind you, this thing is covered in blue fur. So this is where I had to get my experience in acting right then and there. Because again, 45 minutes in the costume, a half hour out. My half hour, I'm supposed to walk around the grounds and see where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do, like plan out the next activity, I guess. I didn't know that I had blue fur stuck to my sweaty ass neck from this costume. I walk past this guy, say hi to him and everything else. And this guy is just staring at me, and he notices the blue fur, and he's just like scowling at me. He's looking at me, he's like, "Are you that Pete the Pirate douchebag?" I'm like, what? What are you talking about? No. Got some blue fur in your neck. Oh yeah, I forgot to shave this morning. And I just like, oh man. But yours sounds so much more fun because I'm sure someone's starting to punch you before if you're, Barney the dinosaur. I mean, can I ask you a question, Matt? Like, did you ever, like, in the privacy of your dressing room, your quarters, whatever, did you ever pretend to be like a more Jurassic Park accurate T-Rex while dressed as Barney? Because I would have.
I do that dressed out of Barney. I do that these days now. I want to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex, especially in certain rooms of my house.
Driving the wife crazy, roaring at her.
I tell you what, though, after the show, you come out, and then the costume was a big costume that it had like a rig thing that it had to they hooked from the top of it, so it looks like when you're getting out of the costume, Barney's giving birth to this 6-foot guy coming out of it.
That is a very disturbing visual. I love it. Oh.
You want to know what else is a disturbing visual?
Oh, hey, you know what? You say what you want, Josh. Okay, that was in 2003. I was 2003. I was 19 when I did that job. So at 19 years old, I was making $13 an hour in 2003. The minimum wage was $5.25 at the time in New Jersey. So
big money.
So there's an image I don't need tonight. I assume see they hear things after we say it, like it's a little bit of a delay. So I assume she's talking about the Barney giving birth to a 6-foot man. Oh God, Matt, if you ever have pictures of that, you need to send them to me, buddy.
But I want to hear how did dressing up in the blue character make you feel like when you're directing today? How do you relate that the motivation behind finding your character, that blue beast, to, the white beast you are when you're directing?
Okay, do you remember like when we were shooting the Bad Agent trailer?
Yeah.
The lines are very specific. So like as they are on the script, of course, like read these lines. Like I want to see how it looks when you read these lines. I want to just give it your all while you're reading what's on the script. But I'm sure you remembered a few times where I would tell the actors, whoever, like whether it's Brian or Travis or any like one of the other people, Becca, Gene, very very talented actors. These were everyone was they were great during this shoot. That's why I would tell them like, okay, I just want you to do you. Like take I want this take to be your playground. You're this character. Show me what you got. You don't have to follow the lines verbatim. Make it your own. And then I was like asking what they thought, because like I mean I remember that was a big thing to me, is like let me, at the time I wanted to be an actor at that time. So at that point in my life, I was like, okay, well, I was given this leeway to do what I wanted to do, and I had a lot more fun. I was able to do a lot more because you have like I think 2 other people that did this Lighthouse Pete the Pirates, because you had a person doing it over in Delaware, and I saw how they did, and it was just so droll. It was boring, like watching this person doing, because they just walk around waving at kids and everything, and like just hugging kids, and not really something I was really fond of doing. I was more, let me just mess with people. So it's like one that carries over to if I direct something, like usually it's a comedy, but I want that person to make it their own. Bad Agent, the short. We had Brian and we had this guy Leon Walker. He's a comedian out here in LA. Leon is a sweet guy. He's a really cool dude. It wasn't in the script, but I wanted Brian to mess with Leon, like make him uncomfortable for this one scene, and that's the scene in the opening of the short where the character of Simon, the agent, sits down, but he sits down with his legs straddling in Leon's face as he sits on a desk, and Leon's sitting in this chair in front of the desk. After the take, I would ask everyone how it went, and just let them do their own thing. So it's like that's pretty much where it comes into play. Like, just I want you to play. I want you to have a good time. That's if you're not having a good time acting, then the person directing is doing a shit job.
What's the old expression they say? Is directing is 90% casting, or if you cast the right actor or something, then
absolutely.
That role. Yeah.
I've only had one actress rather that I, Matt, you were there. That I really was not too happy with, but even her, she's a sweet person. But it's just like it's one of those deals where, even she said she had a good time, which ultimately, whether I did or did not get what I wanted out of that performance, she had a great time on set. She had a great time meeting all of us, but even her with that script, she was giving it her all on it. She was doing a very good job with it. It was things offset that were kind of like whatever, but yeah, it's like it's just like it's like if I were directing you, like I've seen how you carry yourself on set with Play On. It was hysterical, and you were also offering your own insights and recommendations to Brian, and Brian would let you do them, and some of them, from what I've seen, like bled into or were used rather in the final product. So it's like, it's really, people don't realize that acting and directing, it is very symbiotic. It's not just I shout an order and you do it. It is actors have recommendations too. Actors know the characters sometimes even better than the directors do. So it's like sometimes you have to let those actors or actresses do what they're going to do because they may get what you want better than you will. If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense to me. I agree as far as that's part of, again, what I love about the creative process, especially when you got a good part and you have a good director and you can just come up and whatever you want, get the best possible product. That's why I go back to the difference between digital and film. Digital, you can let's just keep shooting it. You got another idea? Let's just do another take. You got another idea? Let's do another take. Film, you can't really do that.
Yeah, it's film. It's like you shut your mouth, take my direction, and do what do I say? We have a time limit. No, I'm joking. I would never tell someone to do what I say. It's like saying, "Dance, monkey, dance for your dollar." No, but it's like, and that's it. Like that's what I love about digital media. If I, what kid? God, I'm going to really show my age here. Kids coming up today, what they have at their disposal for filmmaking, as you said, it is so much more simplistic now than it was back then. In my college days, like we had like the Sony DSLR 250. That's what we were taught on. This big old camera, like clunky, but we had the HVX series cameras. But these were so over the top expensive that it was just impossible for a student to own one unless that student came from a very wealthy background. But now, like, you have things like Danielle, my girlfriend, her phone has this beautiful crisp picture. My phone doesn't. My phone's like an LG Stylo, 5 series. It sucks. But hers is this great picture, this great beautiful video that she has on this thing. And you can have these who is it? Zack Snyder. I'm not a huge fan of his, but Zack Snyder released a short film that he shot on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Like, what's that?
The new iPhone, you can rack focus and do all sorts of really cool cinematic stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's still like a new iPhone is still cheaper than the cameras that you can buy that would pretty much do the exact same thing.
Yeah. I think you're right, though. When I think about in the old days when I was doing a lot of student films, whether it be at Full Sail or USC out here, UCLA, they always had top of the line equipment that they were working with, which was great, again, because the quality of the film was really good at the time. But most of that stuff was not what they were going to probably be using once they got out of school. So I don't know what kind of learning curve they had there. But these days, I mean, everybody's shooting on so many different things.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like I think I mentioned not too long. No, I don't think I spoke about this on the show. Ryan, actually, a friend of mine from college, he was also on the show last year. Ryan Campbell is a local cinematographer out here in Los Angeles. I've known him since 2006, 2007. He was actually the very first person that ever got me into acting by force. Running into him in the hallway, he said, "Hey, you look like a surfer. I need you." Like, okay. No idea where I was going. I mean, I kind of skipped class to help him out. But you know, he was directing me on set acting like a snowboard. But either way, I was at his house a few weeks ago, and he has a whole bunch of these older cameras. Like I'm talking about, like from the 80s, like the VHS tapes or the what is it, like oh god,
8-track?
A-track. Like the
Beta?
like the DV tapes. So you know what I'm talking about? Like I forget what they're called. The I'm
DVD?
not like, huh?
What era? The
No,
80s.
It's like the smaller, like, you know, film tapes that you actually put in the digitizer and it, like, you know, renders it. Whatever the hell they're called. But he has these older cameras, and he's talking about how these cameras are actually coming back into a level of popularity now amongst a lot of people that want the older footage. They don't want to use filters. They want the actual footage shot on these older cameras, to which then they will digitize, but it'll still have that grainy footage that comes with shooting it on film. So as great as these newer cameras are, a lot of those older cameras are apparently making a comeback. He's talking about how he makes a very, very good amount of money just doing that. I'll buy these cameras for, like, you know, 10 to 15 bucks at a Goodwill or a thrift store or something.
Crazy. I know that my wife's nieces, for example, they're all into Polaroids now. I'm like, Polaroids? Those sucked back when they were original. Why do you? Plus, you know, you take a Polaroid, the lighting looks terrible, the picture looks terrible, but they love it. They love it. I don't get it. Plus, you can't share it anywhere because it's a hard copy unless you scan it in, which is a whole other step. What are we doing? We're bringing back all this stuff from the 80s and 90s. It's retro. It's cool now.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it amounts to. As you know, we gentlemen of a certain age basically get into our prime earning years. The market's going to start, you know, gearing towards our childhoods, just like it did for our parents. You remember in the 90s how many oldie stations were on the radio? A lot of oldie stations. Although it's kind of scary to turn on an oldie station these days and suddenly you're hearing Nirvana.
Oh, wow, yeah. Or you're hearing something from 2005 and you're like, wow, that was 15 years ago. It's crazy.
I was going to say, Genie in a Bottle from Christina Aguilera came on a classic rock station the other day. I'm like, what? Like, I was getting ready for high school when the song came on. Time
keeps on slipping
into the future.
You guys are old.
Yeah, I know. It's like we don't hold a candle to, like, young whippersnappers like you, but you know. But you know what? If I go to Target with Danielle, she can find me in either electronics or the toy section. So I think I'm doing okay. But even my taste in toys is different. I got excited over a Richard Simmons action figure.
I want one.
I have no use for it, but you bet your ass I bought one. But
yeah, you talk about kids have it so much easier today. I was in Hobby Lobby the other day, and I was going through it, and I hadn't been in one in a number of years, and I'm like, wow, this is some really, really cool stuff. I mean, all this Star Wars stuff, all this Marvel stuff. I mean, when I was a kid, I would have loved all that junk. Now I look at it and I'm like, it's really cool to see, but I don't know if I want to buy any of it. I'm too old for this stuff now. What am I going to do with it?
You know what pissed me off is like the new Ghostbusters toys. That pissed me off. Now my mom had nothing when I was a kid. She struggled a lot. To say we were poor would be an improvement. But my mom, she made it work. Single mom in her early 20s, raising 2 boys. She made it work, and she even got me a proton pack from the real Ghostbusters cartoon. And those are the coolest damn thing in the world. But then I saw the proton packs that came out for the new movie and what these kids could play with.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, you son of a bitch. I just had a styrofoam, like Nerf kind of thing sticking out the wand on the proton pack that I beat my brother with a few times. But now it actually projects stuff. It makes it look like there's actually a proton blast coming out of it. Like, that's
cool.
So much cooler than what I had.
And your piece of styrofoam was probably $5, but the thing they're selling now is probably like $50, huh?
Yeah, it's like, and like, what was it? My proton pack, like the gun on it actually had like an orange trigger, but it had like that sound that like those old school guns that they would make, like the toy guns, like the like that noise that they used to make, like the rattling noise. That's what mine did. It was nothing impressive. And yeah, so you're right. They're collectibles. I don't know where mine is. I have not seen that in almost like 20 some odd years. But turns out now, if I just kept that damn thing in the box, it'd be worth almost like $6,000.
What?
Retro makes it. Hey buddy, they're retro. If I kept half my toys I had when I was a kid in the boxes and whatnot, God, honestly, right now this is going to make me feel really old. I'm sounding like the guy in 40-Year-Old Virgin. If I kept them in the packaging and not played with them, the G.I. Joes and everything, the first edition Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe. God.
Wow, that's really going back there.
There'd be no of my G.I. Joe base, the vehicles, all that stuff.
I had a few of those. Yeah.
My micro machines, if I kept those things. You young kids these days don't know a damn thing about micro machines. Clean your room, you step on a little truck with a antenna coming out of it, you get that going through your foot. Oh man. Wow. We have strayed a little bit from anything film related with this conversation. See,
Hey,
Matt, I told you it would happen. Huh?
Said they were warned.
Yeah.
Yep. And Sue, I have a wide collection of Beanie Babies with tags and sealed in plastic, even the Princess Diana bear. I mentioned this to somebody one time. My late fiance's little sister has all of her Beanie Babies, one of which is Garfield's bear, his teddy bear Pookie. That thing is worth so much money right now. I never thought those Beanie Babies would ever be worth a damn thing. Judy would be at a flea market, and she spent hours at the Beanie Babies table. And she ended up getting Pookie for like $1, and that very Pookie is worth like a couple hundred right now. Like, it's ridiculous. My Richard Simmons, he'll never be worth a damn thing. It's going to be like an emotional thing to me.
Well, I wonder, like those collectibles like that, did they not make? Because I remember when Beanie Babies was all the rage. Did they just not make a lot of them? Like your Richard Simmons doll, probably there's a million of them out there, so they'll probably never be worth anything. But those Beanie Babies, were they limited in production back in the day?
I don't know. I mean, some of them, yes, I believe, but like I think like the Pookie, the reason why it's so expensive or worth so much now is because it was a very limited release. It was something, if I read into it a while back because I was curious about it when I found out how much it was worth today. It was a limited release. The company that produced it didn't have a lot of faith in its selling, because who the hell wants to buy Garfield's teddy bear? and then it sold out almost immediately, and they never mass produced more of that release. So that very first release, which is the one that she purchased, goes for so much money right now. It's ridiculous. Sorry for the ambiance, guys. I live in Long Beach, so my window faces the street, and it's, you hear everything.
I thought you were making a run for it.
Oh, I would just say I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5, but no, I'm it's just the neighborhood. Thankfully, there's no police helicopter circling above right now. That's usually the other thing that's, yay, Los Angeles.
Hey, there's a chase. I'm in the San Fernando Valley, and I swear there's a high-speed chase here at least once a week.
Oh, God.
At least.
Oh, man. But and that's you recently moved, didn't you? Like, not
I
like
did.
that's it, like where you were, like there. I remember, like, when we got done with Play On, I'm like, you know what? This is going to sound so bad, but thankfully, I don't think that we're going to have to worry about COVID compliance officers on sets anymore. So and I never really wanted to be one. I was just kind of like a side hustle. But I got done with that. I'm like, you know what? I think I asked you, I was like, is there like a bar around here? And you're like 2 blocks down from this actually really awesome little Irish pub.
Yeah, that was in Sherman Oaks I used to live in. I mean, yeah, that was a good area. It was a good area. I was a block away from Ventura Boulevard. But that pub, that's across the street. Or like a block away.
God, the things that get me excited. But yeah, Josh, is there anything else you wanted to do this? I know that this is actually, oh yeah, okay, I heard they stopped making them a few years back. But like, I guess she's talking about the Beanie Babies in general. You can get the gas station ones, but they're like, the gas station ones. It's like, gas station Beanie Babies are like, I guess the equivalent of, you see an action figure for a toy and you want to give the kid that action figure in a Target, but instead you get that kid the action figure from a Happy Meal. Maybe it's a bad comparison because Happy Meal toys actually go for a lot of money depending on which ones they were.
I loved all those Muppet Babies Happy Meal toys.
You know what? I have my grandma's California raisins. From when she got them in the Happy Meal toy. Her California raisins, and you want to hear old? The McDonald's mascot from the 80s, that giant like moon face thing that they based off of Ray Charles. Do you remember that at all?
Mac Tonight?
I think so. Yeah.
No,
yeah, they
I've
had
never heard of them.
They had a release of toys of his that I have 2 that are sealed. And I think those 2 toys are actually like almost like worth $100 a piece.
And it's probably cost you $1,000 to store, right? All these years.
What's that?
It's cost you a lot more money to store than it has what it's appraised at now.
No, they're in my father's house in Jacksonville, Florida. They're sealed away. I did not know that they were still around. The California raisins, they are in the same compartment. A few of them are actually in their packaging. My grandma gave them to me shortly before she passed away. But it's one of those deals where these things are worth a lot of damn money, dude. I'm surprised by like the random things that accrue so much value.
Hey, so, I remember that guy.
Oh yeah, there he is. Wow, Mac tonight, breakfast tomorrow. Like, oddly enough, that thing gave me nightmares when I was a kid.
It was creepy as hell, but a lot of things were in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, Gremlins was PG, man. Gremlins was PG. Those things kill people in that movie. One of them gets blown up in a microwave. Another one gets put in a blender. And another one gets straight up decapitated with a head landing in the fireplace. That was a PG movie. That is why our generation is so screwed up right now. Hey, Dad comes home and is like, hey, I got a Christmas movie for us to watch. It's a family film. Then I'm upstairs rocking back and forth in the fetal position in the bathtub singing.
Don't feed it after midnight. Don't get it wet.
And those are some of the worst rules, man. It made no sense.
Right? Don't get it wet.
Yeah, like what if it drools on itself? Like, I mean, come on. What if it sneezes? What if you sneeze and it's just like caught in the crosshairs? There are so many like just contradictions in those rules. Never understood that.
It's thinking like that brings us midi-chlorians. So let's not overthink it. Sometimes it just is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, it's like, I mean, it wasn't thinking like that gave us midi-chlorians. I mean, that was just like stupidity. But I mean, it is thinking like that though that got it mentioned in Gremlins 2, where the guy's like, well, you can't feed after midnight. I mean, what if it's a different time zone? I mean, it's always midnight somewhere.
Again, this is a conversation someone had, like, but how does the Force work? What's that about? And then some writers like, we should probably answer that.
I was always more concerned about how lightsabers worked. How do you stop a laser mid-extension? And then how does that laser like have any like I don't know, like solid properties to it to where it like stops at another laser, but it can go through any other matter? That is what I want answered. These are things that have actually kept me awake.
Explains this.
No, there's not. I looked like they have certain things, and like, oh well, yeah, it's because of the molecule compound. Then someone else like, lasers don't have molecules; it's light. Oh well, there's like a force around it. Well, it's like the Death Star. The lasers are like it has like that triangular cone laser thing before it like blows up. Alderaan and whatever else. Yeah, it's like all the lasers have like a meeting point and they blow things up. There was a realistic version of that. And what it was there was no green laser. It's just someone made a scientifically accurate Death Star where the laser shooters around that circle, they lit up and then the planet blew up with no visual effects of like a laser shooting towards it. It's just the laser blew up the planet, but you cannot see the laser. So,
lightsabers are not lasers, for one.
Luke Skywalker referred to it as a laser sword. Okay.
Oh yeah, because he's the expert.
I'm sorry. Have you ever wielded a lightsaber, Josh? A real one, not like like a Disney After Effects or whatever the hell it is, toy lightsaber. I'm talking about like a real one. Did Obi-Wan Kenobi hand you a lightsaber? Did some creepy old man in a cave give you a lightsaber and say it was your daddy's toy without telling you that toy slaughtered a bunch of kids at some point in history? I don't think so.
My whole experience at Bible camp.
God. I didn't know they covered that in Vacation Bible School, but
lightsabers, and I'm going to read this quote here. Lightsabers are not lasers. They are an energy production magnification of the crystal inside of them. It's a crystalline structure, is barely noticeable due to the intense light that the projection gives off, but you can see at the tip of the sabers. Think of it like a hologram, only one that channels and focuses immense energy into its projection. And others have also said that it is not a singular, straightforward beam of light. It actually arcs back, so think of it as more of an ellipsis. Nerds out there, man.
I was going to say, who's writing all this stuff for this stuff that doesn't exist? They can just say anything they want.
Has this person ever wielded a lightsaber? Were they ever given like this laser sword from a lonely old man in a cave? I think not, sir.
Yeah, where did Luke go to Jedi school? Mm-hmm.
Some little frog in like a swamp.
That's not a school.
It's homeschool.
And by the way, if they thought Anakin was too young to train, they would have lost their minds if somebody brought up Luke.
Oh man.
Wow, this is getting too weird even for me.
He does get to kiss his sister, right? Does he kiss her in the first one?
See, at least someone else made a kissing a sister joke outside of me on the show. Oh man. See, the things that we talk about on this show when we stray away from the topic, it's fantastic. These are the moments I live for. But I do have to get going though, because so I hate for the show to end, but I do have to work tonight in about like an hour and a half. So, but either way, Matt, do you have any Josh, do you have any closing questions or comments or anything like that of Matt for Matt?
Yeah, actually, Matt. Do you have anything to plug or social media you want to get out there before we head out?
No, not now at this point. Maybe some later on when we've got another short going. Right now, we've got a couple films going through festivals. Right now, our Play On, which I'm in again, that's Stay Green.
You don't want random people like sending you friend requests on your personal social media.
I mean, yeah, you can look for me. Matt Mitchell Bohr is my handle on Facebook. Justin Dre, by the way, is our actor who is in Stay Green. I just mentioned I said the wrong name. Sorry, that was a dope moment. Yeah, so that's my handle on Instagram. On that, Matt's Film is my handle on Instagram if anybody's out there, and hopefully I'll start putting more stuff up on my YouTube as I start building that out as well.
Okay. Well,
Brandon.
Well, you guys can follow me on, I guess if you want to follow me on my Twitter. I don't really use it. I'm horrible at it. I've seen Brian tag me in a few things on Twitter. I just happened to log into it. I didn't know I was still logged into it on my phone. But either way, you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is You Can't Ground Me. I don't know what the hell that means, but it's whatever. You can follow me on Instagram, bjaxman82. It's B as in Brandon, Jax, Jax as in Jacksonville, man, because last I checked, I am one, and 82 as in my birth year. So you can follow me on there, but more importantly, you can follow the WADcast. You'll know us on Instagram by looking at our profile picture, type in the WADcast. You'll see a black picture with a white banner that says the WADcast in it. You can also follow us on Facebook. If you're watching this on Facebook Live, congratulations, you're already a member. But if you haven't liked or followed our page, like and follow the page. It's facebook.com/the WADcast. And just like the Instagram account, black picture, white banner, the WADcast. But we also have our website up and running. That is thewadcast.com. Not wadcast.com, because that is a page that's for sale for way too much money. So we have the WADcast. It's like Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters. This is the WADcast. We have updates, we have reviews, we have opinion pieces. We have Danielle Hill. She is not just my girlfriend, she's also a contributor for the show, for the website. But we also are going to be posting up past shows. I'll be taking care of all the updating on that tonight. So if you miss this show, not a problem. If you're hearing this in the future, then congrats, you found it. This will be on the website as of tonight. But yeah, so any announcements that we have for the future will be on the website as well, including next episodes, recommendations. That's pretty much it. So Josh, why don't you go ahead and do your thing?
I can do that, I think.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to find out more about me or anything else we do here at Wadco Media, you can, for now, go to semicorestudios.com, because domains and websites, they take time to do. So Wadco Media is not up and running yet, but Semicore Studio still is, with all the appropriate links. And whatever you're listening to us on, if you're listening on the Facebook page, like Brandon said, hit like and make sure that you receive the notifications of when we go live every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. If you are a downloader, hit subscribe, so that way whenever you refresh your podcast feed, you'll be able to get the latest and greatest episode of the Wadcast every time that it's available, usually around Sunday. Give people some incentive to catch it early live. That way you can join in the chat, much like Sue, Brian, and Amber, all of whom chimed in tonight. Danielle, how about that for a milestone, Brandon?
Oh yeah, Danielle commenting.
Yeah.
You know she stopped listening like after the first 5 minutes. We traumatized her with the first episode. She's not listened to a single episode since.
A lot of people are traumatized by the first episode, which you can find in any of the backlogs.
No one is more traumatized than me, okay? So
You're the one that said it.
I did it to myself. I know. But it's whatever.
But
That's
you can
how we-
find
that's how we learn.
on where was I? Hit subscribe. If you're watching it on YouTube, what am I supposed to say? Smash that like button, I guess. Smash it. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about what's going on here with the WADcast. And as far as CinemacoreStudios.com goes, that also has links to our Patreon. We're going to start expanding on what we do here, depending on, stuff.
Yep.
As well as our merchandise store. That's right. We have a merch shop. If you look through the WADcast Facebook page, you'll be able to see Brandon or myself modeling any one of our fine t-shirts coming through the photo section. But that's pretty much it for the show tonight. I want to thank Matt for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, Matt. It was fun having you on, buddy.
A lot of fun. Thank you guys for everything.
So, and Josh, is this where you give everyone your motivational speech?
You mean the final thoughts?
Yes.
Yes, it is. And Matt actually touched on some of this a little bit earlier. So I thought it was very apropos that, this message gets out there once again. But as I say every week, the only thing standing between you and your dreams is you. That's right. You are the only one that is stopping yourself from becoming what you want to be. If you want to be a creator, the first thing you need to do is create. If you want to write. If you want to shoot something, you have a phone, don't you? The quality of these things, the technology is so democratized that there are no more excuses. Shoot something with your phone. I need to throw that in there. If you want to create a podcast, guess what? It's not hard. If you want to act, again,
it's not hard.
I wouldn't say that, but it's definitely
okay.
not as hard as you're making it out to be to yourself. Stop putting obstacles in your own path. Your dreams start today, not tomorrow. And the only thing you have left to do is to do it. Okay, so for Brandon, and once again, thanks to Matt, I hope you all enjoyed the WADcast episode number 74. We'll be back next week with episode number 75. It's going to be a pretty hot topic. I think Brandon would agree with that.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I did not run this by Josh, but I think I think it's probably good that we introduce what the subject for the next shows are at the end of the closing.
Okay, go for it.
So next week, the show is going to be all about criticism, constructive criticism, good criticism, bad criticism, and also ways in which you can either learn from it and grow from it, or ways in which you can pretty much refuse it and take the chance of doing your own thing. Like what's acceptable for everyone in every facet of it. Because there is good criticism, there's fantastic criticism. Sometimes it's harsh, sometimes it's not, but it's always something that should be very, very welcomed at all times, especially if you're trying to create a craft in any level of filmmaking. So that's going to be next week's episode. It's going to be all about criticism, taking it, giving it, all that stuff. So,
do we know for sure if we're going to have a special guest?
We do not.
Yeah, I was hoping the delay wouldn't be so great so we could get that in the chat.
But either way.
Okay, well, next week, we'll see you with episode number 75, basically having thick skin in the biz. Until next week, I'm Josh. That's Brandon. I hope you all have a super duper wonderful, awesome, amazing, as I'm buying time to find the right video outro weekend.
Okay. Have a good night, guys.